Historic rains have blanketed California with wildflowers. Well, that sounds real nice, doesn't it? Comma, but. So you gotta have a but, because that sounds too positive. But such kaleidoscopic events are under threat. Wait a minute, suddenly it's a threat? We got a but, and then there's a threat because of wildflowers? And the epic statewide bloom is now a negative. See that? Isn't that amazing? You know why? This leads me to one of my favorite old sayings. Every silver lining has a cloud. And that's your Democrat Party. And that's your news media. But I repeat myself. Every silver lining has a cloud. They've got beautiful wildflowers because the drought is over and the rains have come and the state has been replenished and this epic statewide super bloom is ongoing. But threat. Because that's your Democrat Party for you. During the depths of California's latest drought, much of the Golden State was brown. But hidden beneath the parched, cracked, and sometimes charred earth, life was waiting to emerge. And now that it has, they've found a negative spin. And it's on the front page above the fold. The torrents of rain that cascaded across California this winter broke records, flooded fields, and washed over hillsides. Sure, that's California. And that's Earth. And that's the climate. And that's what happens. And that will always happen. Doesn't matter how much of your money the Democrats take from you, that will continue to happen because it's called the climate. The sudden transformation of California's landscape from dry and apparently barren into kaleidoscopic fields of wildflowers has captivated the country and drawn thousands of revelers. It's a phenomenon that has become increasingly rare. That's really not true. It's on again, off again. It's California. A lot of it is desert. They're on the ocean. There are mountains here and there. The super bloom, like so many of nature's most magnificent expressions, is under threat. A changing climate regularly plunges the state into prolonged droughts. That's always been the case. See, here's the thing. This is, California became a state. We've only been there, people who have been writing stuff down have only been there for a couple of hundred years. And, our records don't go back that far, and the climate changes. And I played the audio of the climate scientist the other day who said, is the planet warming? Well, it depends on what sort of timeline you use. The planet is cooling when we talk about from the, medieval warming period and then their medieval cooling period. You've got to almost admire the fanaticism, the lunacy involved in finding something negative in everything. Drought, terrible. Rain, terrible. Snow, terrible. Everything is terrible. It doesn't matter what happens. It's bad news. Honestly. Let's get back to the bad news Bidens, because the Biden organized crime family, they got some splaining to do. Yes, they do. And there is a New York Republican congressman, Nick LaLotta. And he was on the television this morning, and he made some very sound points, and some obvious points that Democrats don't make and that the news media don't make. But I repeat myself. New York Republican Nick LaLotta.
We do know some of these details. We do know the president's son made millions of dollars in countries whose languages he did not speak, in sectors that he had no professional experience. We do know that. We also know he was involved in drugs and prostitutes, and we think that the Oversight Committee is right to ignore that aspect of it and focus on the money that's coming from those foreign countries. Americans have a lot of questions as to what the president knew, if the president benefited from those dollars going to his son, again, in those countries where he had no experience, his languages he did not speak, in sectors he had no experience. We need to know what the president's involvement in that was.
Gosh, what do you mean you need to know? Congress? You think you have the House of Representatives oversight over the executive branch? Like some kind of branches of government thing and checks and balances? Well, that's not in vogue at the moment. Congressman Nick La Lota.
Now, the White House had said that there's nothing wrong there. The president did nothing wrong. So the president should answer this subpoena, should reveal any facts related to it, so we can get to the bottom of it right away.
That would be good, rather than, the 5-year role that the Justice Department is giving us. And I think the Washington Post, a fake newspaper yesterday, had some breaking story from a leak from inside the Biden corrupt Justice Department, probably, saying, in Delaware, there is the special prosecutor, sort of, who is impaneled a grand jury, and they're making a career out of it. Most people start and graduate college in less time than these people are taking, and the evidence is plain for everyone to see. The laptop, the emails, the big guy, the 10%, the text messages to Hunter Biden's daughter that I got to give my father half of my income because he gets these phony no-show jobs in countries where, again, as the congressman here pointed out very intelligently, Joe Biden has no language skills. He doesn't communicate. He doesn't have any expertise in the businesses that are paying him millions of dollars. He doesn't have to show up. And these foreign countries are filling the bank accounts, filling the coffers, the treasure chests of up to a dozen members of the Biden family. And we've got a news media that pays no attention to it at all. Isn't that amazing? And if only we had a news media, what would they do? Congressman Leilota.
We never want a president who's compromised, especially with our chief adversaries. The president's son was doing business in and around countries where we have a lot of adversaries. And we need to find out these details. If we're going to go down that road, we need to make it blatantly clear to the American public that he has been compromised, if he in fact has been.
Man, oh man. Does he speak Ukrainian? Does he speak Russian? Does he speak Cantonese? Does he speak Szechuan? Does he know how to make General Chow's chicken? Does he? On CNN this morning, they brought on the biggest liar in all of Washington, Congressman Adam Schiff of California, who lied every hour of every day for years on end about his inside information on President Trump and Russian collusion. And it was all an epic lie. Again, his boy Gurgle of the Socialist Worker Party. A lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And that is the Adam Schiff axiom. That is the rule that he lives by. And CNN loves it. Now, CNN had the inchworm on today. His wife calls him the inchworm. His nickname is the inchworm. And he was there to lie. Oh, there's nothing to see here. We've never seen the laptop. We've never seen the emails. Remember the 51 corrupt intelligence officials, Mike Morrell and penitentiary face Brennan and Dana Bash's ex-husband, signed on to that letter of 51 felons that corrupted our election, like the way the CIA corrupted elections in third world countries during the Cold War. And now our CIA intelligence community has turned their powers inward on behalf of the left and the Democrat Party, keeping in mind that Barack Obama's CIA director, John Penitentiary Face Brennan, voted for the Communist Party candidate for the presidency of the United States, Gus Hall, and bragged about it. And then you remember they brought in Van Jones, who bragged about being a communist. And then you got Anita Dunn, whose favorite political philosopher is Chairman Mao, right? And that other Obama administration official, Ron Bloom, who said they agree with Chairman Mao that all power comes from the barrel of a gun. I think I see a pattern emerging here. Here's CNN inviting the biggest liar in Washington. And that is something. That is just amazing. To be the biggest liar in Washington. Nothing is analogous. There is a CNN anchor fluffer with the inchworm.
Oversight Chair James Comer is now subpoenaing records from the FBI. He has subpoena power, of course. He claims they could show then Vice President Biden receiving bribes allegedly from a foreign national in exchange for policy favors. I should note the White House has strenuously denied this. We've gotten zero evidence. We haven't seen anything of what Republicans are talking about. But Comer is coming out and saying this publicly. Other Republicans are as well. What do you make of that?
That is quite a loaded question with a lot of allegedlys and purportedlys, and they've shown no evidence of it. That is not the way they handled the Trump-Russian collusion story or the phony dossier, which wasn't a dossier. It was Hillary's opposition research. And remember the FBI director, J. Edgar Comey, lied to the FISA courts repeatedly. The FISA court repeatedly say, oh no, this is legitimate intelligence gathered by legitimate intelligence people. No, it was Hillary Clinton's opposition research, and it was nothing but lies. And they got warrants to spy on Americans, including a Naval Academy grad, Carter Page, and it was all a lie. And Adam Schiff was one of the biggest liars. J. Edgar Comey was one of the biggest liars. And here comes the inchworm with his phony, and this is, if you watch CNN to get your news, you honestly spend an hour doing that, you're dumber at the end of the hour than you were at the beginning of the hour.
Honestly, I don't think you can put much stock in anything that Mr. Comer has to say, because his track record is very poor.
Look who's talking.
So-called whistleblowers before Congress, none of it has borne out. None of it has represented what they said it would. It's been a fiasco. And so I don't know whether this is just pure speculation that they believe there's a document of an interview. Well, there are lots of interviews. That doesn't necessarily mean there's any wrongdoing. So I wouldn't give much stock to this, but I'm not surprised they push out these unsubstantiated allegations. They've been doing it for some time.
They're unsubstantiated allegations. That's the whistleblower from the IRS, the whistleblower apparently from the FBI on the latest go-around. And this is our, this is our Congress and our news media. It is good to be a Democrat. Boy, is it good to be a Democrat. Now, we still have the border to get to, because Joe Biden is planning on drowning the country in millions and millions of non-English speaking illegal aliens, which is why Barack Obama told us that we better learn Spanish. He told us long ago. Not everyone heeded his warning, and the fundamental transformation of America is well underway. The Democrat Party is not on our side. They are not on our side. And the inchworm on CNN, the biggest liar, well, I wouldn't put much stock in this unverified. Congressman Comer, let the hearings begin.
You're lying dog-faced Tony soldier.
You're listening to the Chris Plante Show.
You hurt one person, you get 10 years in prison, but if you hurt millions of people, you get your name on a building.
That's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with another nugget of wisdom. Her historical knowledge is,
1/4 mile,
shall we say,
turn right
rather
on
limited.
33rd Street, then take the first right.
Well, one man in New York is, if AOC gets her way, certainly, in a lot of hot water. There was an incident on a New York City subway train. Yesterday, I brought to you the story of the New York City security officer at a Walgreens drugstore in New York, the city that never sweeps. He had retired from the NYPD, I think last year, and got a job doing security at Walgreens.
Turn right at the traffic light,
came into
then
the
take the
Walgreens
first
with an empty
right.
bag, filled it up with products, and was sashaying out of the store with the obvious intent of stealing everything he had filled his bag with. When the security guard attempted to intervene, which you might think would be his job, the criminal swung the bag filled with heavy items, a jar with, who knows, spaghetti sauce and cans, hit the security officer, now retired NYPD guy, in the head, a big welt
Turn right on
his
East D Street.
on his orbital ridge, and broke his glasses. The security officer then, tracking the man outside, attempted to take him into custody. The man was resisting. The security officer
In
took him to the
1/4
ground.
mile, arrive
in New
at
York City,
1712 East D
people that
Street on the
self-identify as
right.
liberals are running the place. They actually arrested and jailed the security officer, the retired NYPD officer. It was the New York Port Authority police that arrested the security officer because, you know, every cop is a criminal and all the sinners saints in New York City. And now we've got another one. He spent, I think, 7 hours in jail, and he's the villain. He's been charged with assault and other crimes, whereas the mentally ill criminal who assaulted, stole, he's the hero of the story in Democrat Party circles because there's a lot of unwellness out there. Now, today we've got a new story.
Arriving at 1712 East D Street on the right.
Subway passenger putting unhinged man in deadly chokehold. And it is, good luck riding the subway in New York these days. Don't stand near the edge because some Democrat is as likely as not to throw you down onto the third rail or in front of an approaching train. Don't stand there texting, with your toes hanging over the edge. That's good policy anywhere you see a subway. And in D.C., I've always been rather prudent when it comes to these things. I don't stand on street corners waiting to cross with my toes hanging over the curb because I've seen too many Democrats drive up on the sidewalk when trying to turn corners. But the statement went out today, and I'm very happy to be able to say that I will be hosting a show on Newsmax beginning Monday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern. It is a panel discussion show on the news of the day, and this has been in the works for some time. Been all hush-hush because we were still working it out, but Newsmax announces new show with Chris Plante. The statement went out today. Newsmax will launch a new primetime show hosted by Chris Plante beginning Monday, May 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Chris Plante, The Right Squad. The Right Squad will be an exciting panel show led by Chris Plante and will include Newsmax veteran Jen Pellegrino, who is wonderful, along with 3 other regular panelists. And the show marks a major new addition to the Newsmax lineup that begins each night with Greta Van Sustren's The Record, followed by Rob Schmidt tonight, Eric Bowling, The Balance, and then Chris Plante, The Right Squad. So I want to share that with you, and I'm congratulating myself.